Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Chris Gaisford, and I have a fresh installed version of Popos here. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through how I typically set up my Gnome environments for my Linux computers. Gnome is pretty popular. You see it on Fedora, Ubuntu, Popos, just whatever desktop environment you're really using. Everything in this video is going to be basically opinion based. Everybody likes their computer set up a different way and all that fun stuff, but because I'll probably be using this computer to do some tutorials going forward, I figured I would do a quick video on how I usually set mine up. Alright, so the first thing we're actually going to do is, because this is a freshly installed version of Pop! OS, is we're just going to get into the terminal here. And alright, it's just giving me some instructions there, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to run updates. So since this is Ubuntu based, we're going to run sudo apt. You don't have to run apt-get anymore. That's kind of old school. Nowadays you can just run sudo apt, and I think it's update. I am typically somebody that uses Fedora, but I do feel like Pop! OS brings a lot to the desktop environment market, so figured that's what I'd be using on this computer, just because more people are more likely going to be using Pop! OS, so it's going to line up with what more people are doing. Type in my password there. Yep, it looks like it's going through. Okay, so looks like it does see some updates, but update wasn't the right terminology. I should have used upgrade. There we go, and it's asking me if I want to go ahead and install updates, and because I haven't taken any time to junks up this machine yet, I'm going to go ahead and just say yes on all of them. These are going to be like everything out of the box. Firefox, drivers, looks like LibreOffice is on there, so basically everything that you would get on a clean install on something like this. Alright, and this will probably take few minutes to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip forward to when all the updates have been installed. All right, welcome back. I went ahead and finished installing the updates and all that stuff off camera. It was taking a little bit longer. There were quite a few updates to go ahead and install, but I mean, I do highly recommend installing updates just in general, get the latest security patches and everything like that. Now that we went ahead and we've installed updates, we could go ahead and start tweaking our GNOME a bit. And the easiest way to do that on the latest version of GNOME is just to open up Firefox. It's installed with every Pop! OS installation, and we're just going to go ahead and go to the GNOME extensions webpage. And this is kind of like an app store for your GNOME. You do need to install the browser extension, so we're going to go ahead and install that. Okay, and then if we go ahead and refresh this page, we could go ahead and see we get rid of that error there. So the first application I'm going to go ahead and install or tweak or add on for GNOME that I'm going to go ahead and install is going to be -2 panel right here, this top one here. I know a lot of people typically like the -2 dock, but for me personally, the -2 panel does a better job. I think it just looks cleaner and gives me the experience that I like of it. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. And as you can see, it takes my top bar and makes it this bottom bar. Kind of like if you were in Deepin and you go into productive or work mode, it gives you this bottom bar similar like this. You can see all your applications here. Sort of Windows-esque, but obviously it's better than Windows because we're on Linux. So that's the first one we're going to go ahead and install. The second one we're going to go ahead and install is called Panel OSD here. And we'll go ahead and install this one. So what this one does is when you get notifications, and I could actually show you here in a bit when we open up the settings for this extension. I'll show you what it does, but basically it allows you to move the pop-up for your notifications. So that we have the dash panel, which gives you this bar. We have the panel OSD, which is going to allow us to move where we get the notification pop-ups. I also do this top panel scroll. And so what this does is it allows you to quickly shift between your workspaces on a GNOME environment. So you could go here, and I don't see it currently, but that's probably because I've went ahead and started installing some extensions. But you could switch between workspaces, much like on Mac OS with Pop OS, or any Linux distribution, or any GNOME that is. But what this does is it allows you to quickly shift between your workspaces just by using a scroll anywhere on this bottom bar that doesn't have like an icon or anything. Like trying to do it there isn't going to do anything, but right here in this middle space you could go ahead and just scroll to switch workspaces. Super convenient. Highly recommend it for anybody that is looking for a quick way to switch between your workspaces. Then something I'm going to go ahead and do is I don't like where like the buttons over here, like the X being in the top right corner. I don't like that. I don't like not having a minimize button and stuff like that. So we're going to hop back over to our terminal here, and we're going to go ahead and do a sudo apt install, and we're going to go ahead and grab gnome tweaks. And I'll go ahead and type in my password here. So what GNOME Tweaks does is it gives you more options to customize your GNOME desktop, a little bit more out of the box than what you're used to typically having. So now if we just go into our menu here and look for tweaks, there it is. We could go ahead and open that up. And as you can see, it gives us a little bit more options, so we could go ahead and get into our actual settings. So like I mentioned, I like to have my buttons on the left hand side. I come from using Mac OS as a work machine, so when I'm using my personal laptops running Linux, I'm just used to finding it there. I also do like having the minimize and maximize buttons as well. Some people aren't going to want those, but for me personally, I think it's definitely awesome to have those there. And we'll just take a quick look over here, show the date, and it says this is the top bar, but because we're using dash panel, it's moved it to the bottom. And so as you can see, when I change settings here, it actually changes them down here. I do like knowing the date, and I do like knowing the battery percentage. I'm currently plugged in, so it won't matter a whole bunch, but this is a laptop. Weekdays, seconds doesn't really matter to me. Week numbers doesn't really matter to me. Alright, so if you go into this extensions menu here, this is one of the main reasons to have this installed, whether you're going to be tweaking where your buttons are or not. But if you go into this extensions menu here, you could go ahead and see all the extensions you have installed. Like most of these errored out on install, so they're not turned on and have little errors here. But you could actually open up the settings for those specific extensions. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look at our dash panel here. Icons are huge, and the bar is a little bit bigger than I would like on this machine. Oh, that's real nice right there. But so what we're gonna do is I'm fine with the position of it. Let's go ahead and modify this style of it, and the size I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner just to give me a little bit more window space. I think the app margin looks fine. We'll see what happens when we drag that down. Makes them a little bit closer, so that's not bad. And let's see if we drop that. Those get a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is the padding around the icon. I usually like smaller icons personally, so I'll go ahead and I'll make those a little bit smaller. But just with a few clicks, as you can see, I've modified how my bar has looked, and that's one of the great things about having access to these settings here. There's a few different ways you can access them. To me, this is the easiest way. Let's go ahead and take a look at that panel OSD that I was talking about here. So this, like I said before, this modifies where you get your notifications. So if we go ahead and just say show test notification here, you can see it's up here at the top. This is the default location for notifications on GNOME. Personally, I don't like it there. I like it on the right hand side, and if we take a look at that, pops it up here in the top corner. I really still don't like that. I'm more of a, let's put it on the bottom of the screen. Right, yep, right there. I think that looks great. Might even just pop it up maybe 5%. That's pretty close. Yeah, just right here in the bottom corner. I think that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. So I'll go ahead and save that. And we could even take a look at our top panel workspace scroll here. See what options we have. So we have ignore last workspace. So if you take a look and we turn that on, I don't know if that'll make a difference. We're only using 2 of them right now, but I usually typically leave that off. I usually do put a delay in here just so if I do have 3 or 4 workspaces, I don't accidentally skip over one. I have to kind of like click through them just so I don't skip over them as easily. And then show indicator. Let's see what that does. Not really seeing any reason to have that. And then the wraparound is so I could just go from the top to the bottom with the scroll very easily. Typically, I don't have the wraparound. I usually know if I'm going up or down while scrolling, so I think that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave those settings there. Looks, I could see this application is having a great time, but we could go ahead and close this for now. Then something else I don't like out of the box from Popos is this terminal window. It's fine, it gets the job done, but when I'm using a desktop environment on my Linux machines, I typically don't use this out of the box terminal window here. So I'm going to go ahead and say sudo apt install, and I'm going to go ahead and install Tmux. I've played around with a few of them. Tmux seems to get the job done in a way that I like. So I'm going to go ahead and just have that installed and be able to use that as my default terminal window going forward. And it allows you to do a few extra things as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to remove this from favorites so it's not on my bar anymore. That could go ahead and stay. And let's go ahead and let's open up Tmux and add it to our favorites bar here. And so it doesn't look too much different right out of the box. I mean, you have just a normal, very normal terminal window here. And I mean, it's kind of what you'd come to expect. But what's nice about it is you could actually break these up kind of like you would use if you're using Tmux. So that's very nice. Does Popos come with Tmux out of the box? It does not. So let's go ahead and let's install Tmux as well. If you guys want to learn how to use Tmux, go ahead and let me know down below. I don't know if I'm going to make a video on how to use it specifically, but Tmux is something I do typically like to use, be able to bounce around my terminal windows without having to reach for the mouse or like take my hands off the keyboard. So I do use Tmux from time to time. And then what's really cool is you can actually have like workspaces in here. So you can have like 5 different tabs in here and have them be broken up into different Tmuxy type windows where you have different layouts. So that's one of the powers that Tmux has. It also gives you some preferences where you can modify just how your Tmux looks. So if we go into our default colors and settings here, I'm going to go ahead and take it off of the theme colors just so it goes to a more, it's not trying to pull from the theme, so I have more control. As you can see now, my text is green here. And I am somebody that does like green text typically in my terminal. Call me old-fashioned or old school. And then I do typically have just a slight transparency to it. I think it looks nice. I know not everybody's going to agree with that there, but just kind of out of the box, I think that looks pretty good. I'll probably at some point end up modifying how this looks. I'm not a big fan of the green Popos terminal prompt there. But talking about our terminal and the terminal prompt, I think that leads us to a great segue. And right now, out of the box, Linux typically just runs a bash terminal. And if you don't know the different types of terminals, bash is just typically what you'll see when you SSH into a server or just open up a terminal. And even like if you do use Mac OS, that is a bash prompt there. But something that I've started using in the last few months and I have come to enjoy it is Oh My Zsh. And this is just a Z shell with some additional modifiers in it just to make it a little bit nicer. So we're going to go ahead and install this. Looks like they just have a very nice copy and paste command here that we could just take into our terminal. And we can go ahead and paste that in there. Please install. Oh, I guess we do need to do some pre-setup first. So let's go ahead and say sudo apt install zsh. And we'll go ahead and allow that and all the dependencies it has. Okay, so it looks like we did get ZSH installed, so I'm just gonna up a few times. Oh, alright, guess I won't be doing that. I'll just go ahead and paste that into my terminal and let that installed. And I do want to change it to my default shell, and that does require a password. But there we go. Now we're in a ZH shell, and if you don't know the differences, I could go ahead and I'll make a different video on it at some point versus Bash versus Z shell. Like I said, typically I do like using the Z shell for my personal computers. It's not something that I would install on a server or anything like that. I'm using in production to manage applications or server workloads, but just as a user experience front end for like a personal laptop, I think ZSH is really good. And then I'm not a big fan with the color scheme that Popos provides. Not that there's anything wrong with gray and orange, but I typically do go ahead and find a theme for Vmix. I think Vmix is the one I'm typically used to for my Linux GNOME machines. And if we go ahead and scroll down through here, looks like we can have a few dependencies we need to install first. So I'll go ahead and just paste those in there. Okay, it looks like we didn't actually have to install anything, so it looks like we're good to go ahead and just get started with this. So we're going to go ahead and just clone this and just copy this HTTPS link for it. Currently, I think I'm just in my home directory, so do I have a temp directory by chance? I don't. So that is something we're going to want to make. So we're going to go ahead and make dir temp, cd into our temp dir, and now we could do a git clone to get this Vmix theme onto our computer here. And if you take a look, even just over here, they do have an install.sh, which we're going to execute to go ahead and get these placed into the right spot on our machine, just so we're not digging through. So if we do take a look inside of here, we actually need to go into that folder first and just do an ls. We do have an install.sh here. We're going to go ahead and that's what we're going to run to go ahead and get the Vmix installed. And you can just do a /install.sh to go ahead and run that. And as you can see, it's done. And let's go ahead and go back to our GNOME tweaks here. So I typically use Vmix, like I was saying, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different themes for GNOME computers. Looks like this is just going to be... Oh, hi there, Luna. Hi there, Luna. You guys want to go outside, huh? Alright. I'll be right back. Alright, come on. Let's go. Go, 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 go. All right. And I am back. All right, so it looks like this application is just going to be happier full screen. So something I am going to do is I'm going to hop over to our appearance here. And if you see, we have a few different options. Most of these are set to pop, 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 pop. We have our background and our lock screen here, but what I want to do is I want to go ahead and change a few of these from the pop to the dark or the Vmix. And I typically like the Vmix. Let's see here. Oh boy, I don't like that. That's too. That's weird. All right, looks like they have changed a few of the names on here since I've last used Vmix. Okay, not typically. I think I usually use a Vmix Ruby, but just for the meantime. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stick with this Vmix Dark laptop duder. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to be. We'll just kind of go ahead and see if there's any other Vmix ones here that. And then you see the shell isn't enabled here. If we hop over to our extensions and take a quick look here. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is to modify the shell. Basically this bottom bar and these pop-up menus here. We're going to need another GNOME extension. So we'll go back over to our Firefox browser, go back to our GNOME extensions webpage. And you can also just click on here to get there. Just the little GNOME extension, browser extension we installed first. And we are going to need to install this user themes one to go ahead and to give us a little bit more control over what we can use for our themes. So now that we have that installed, we should see it over here in this menu, maybe. If you are ever having some weirdness with GNOME extensions, especially if you're installing new tools, you do have to close out of it to like get some of your new stuff found or changes or stuff like that. We'll go ahead and make this back to full screen. Now if we go back into our extensions, we should see that we have the user themes. And now when we go into appearance, we can now modify what we're using down here in our bottom shell. And now, oh yeah, you can see now instead of the light menu that we had before using the pop, we can change it to that Vmix dark and have these nice dark pop-up windows. And okay, I think that's all the changes we're going to be making there. We can go ahead and close out of that. But I think I'm pretty happy with that as a whole. It's typically how I set up my GNOME environments right off the box. Over time, I do typically hone in a few of the things that I do use as far as installing software goes. I usually make sure I have the latest version of Python and Node installed and stuff like that for when I'm building stuff out. I usually have a few different softwares installed this for like flashing USBs and flash drives and stuff like that. So, but I mean, right out of the box, this is how you're gonna see me using my Linux computer. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of this wallpaper here, so we're gonna go ahead and see if there's one I like just in here. But I'll probably just use one of my own photos that I've taken. Welcome to the colorful Colorado. Is Popos from Colorado? I'm not quite sure on that one, but it might make sense with that image there. Okay, I think that one looks pretty nice for now, but there we go. This is it. This is Popos fully set up in a way that I would actually use it and enjoy using it. So if you definitely liked this video, please hit that like button. If you didn't like the video, definitely let me know in the comments down below what I can improve on. I'm definitely new to YouTube, and all the advice and anything that I could get from you guys would be much appreciated. Coming forward on this YouTube channel, I'm going to start doing some home automation and stuff like that. actually have a Raspberry Pi sitting right here so I can start getting some home assistance set up and start making videos on how you can start modifying your home to be smarter and do smart home things. So if that's something you're interested in, if you want more Linux stuff, Python stuff, maybe even some JavaScript stuff, definitely let me know. I enjoy and love doing it all. Again, thanks so much for watching and giving me your time.